Welcome everyone to Aussie Scrapper, and today I have a layout for you featuring the Cocoa Vanilla Totally Rad collection. I'm conscious that the layout I make today has to match this layout because it's going to be the corresponding page to it. So I want the colours to complement one another. I don't want anything completely different, but I just want it to match is what I guess I'm trying to say. I'm going to be using this white paper to map my photos. It's one that I've had in my stash for a while, so I guess I haven't used it before and I'm going to use it now. And I'm using double-sided tape. And I have a question for all the scrappers out there. Being in Australia, an ATG gun is quite expensive. Do you think it's worth the investment? Please let me know in the comments below. And once again, I'm using my Perfect Layers ruler to map my photos. If you've been watching my videos lately, you will probably know that this is something I've been doing over the last couple of videos. I don't know why, but it's becoming a bit of a thing of mine, having all my sides exactly the same. Both my photos have now been matted with that pretty white paper, and I've decided that I will mat them with a second layer, and I'm going to be using my black cardstock that I had in my stash. So as not to bore you with the process of matching my photos all over again in a second colour, I would just cut to the end when all my photos are all matted. My background paper is that sort of wood grain colour there, and it is from the Cocoa Vanilla Totally Rad collection, and it is called Stella. I will also be using the star patterned paper that you see there, and that is actually the reverse side of the Stella paper from Totally Rad. So I'm going to be using both pieces of paper on the one layout. And it's a shame because I really love that star paper, so I might have to go and buy more of that star paper. More money to spend. I'm now thinking of using this paper from the Totally Rad collection as well, and it is called Say What. So I'll just be using that underneath the star paper that I've trimmed earlier. These doilies that I'm going through here are from Kmart that I bought a little while ago, and I'm thinking of adding one of these doilies to the photo there on the left hand side where my mum is. I'm going to be going through my embellishments and trying to decide on my clusters and what embellishments I will or will not use. Now, I started off with some chipboard love hearts that I had. I thought I'd start off doing clusters of love hearts, but somewhere along the line it takes a completely different turn and I don't end up using any of the love hearts. All this ephemera that I've been playing with is all from the Totally Rad collection. And it does take me a while to work out the placements. As I said, the love hearts go, and this is where that little cluster stays. And it says, the little round one says, hey, and the one down the bottom says, that's my boy. And then I've got a little man there in blue, which I thought was quite fitting. Oh my gosh, I'm showing my age. Who remembers these big foam stamps from the past? Now, these really are a blast from the past. I'm just going through my chipboard collection to make sure I don't have a number 5 somewhere, and I've come across this chipboard that says family, and I do end up keeping that, but you'll see that later on. I'm just applying some silver paint to my number 5 foam stamp, and I will be stamping it on that scrap piece of white cardstock that I did. I just did a test run, you could say, on some scrappy piece of paper because I wanted to make sure I had my stamp the right side up. I'm just doing a few little manual touch-ups with my paintbrush, and I did leave this number 5 to dry overnight as it was getting late and I had to get some sleep. So I do come back to this layout the next day. This is the next day and I've fussy cut my 5 out, and I've actually inked all around the edges of the 5 with my black marker there. I really want to use that banner there that says hey boy, But my issue with it is that it covers my mother's hair or part of her forehead. So what I'll end up doing to rectify the matter is I grab my scissors and I trim it down till it fits and it doesn't cover my poor mum's forehead anymore. And that's my stash of chipboard letters that I'm trying to use up. I'm just going through it to find letters for my title. Because the number 5 is I painted in that silver colour, I decided I want to bring more of that silver into the layout. So I'm going to be using some embossing powder on that family chipboard there, and I'm just embossing it with some Stampendous clear embossing ink, and I will be going in and embossing it with some Zing. It's from American Craft, and it's called Zing embossing powder. And the colour is actually a metallic finish, but it's sort of like a darker silver colour. It turns out quite nice. I'm just using my heat gun to melt the embossing powder, and I love embossing. I just love how it just miraculously changes in front of your eyes. I did give the family chipboard and a second coat of embossing powder. I don't think I did it on camera, so I don't think I made you watch all that process all over again. Sorry, I lied. I did make you watch it all over again, but I did fast forward it. Sorry. I don't think that number 5 and the title today are popping off the page, so I'm going to go in and emboss the number 5 with some silver embossing powder that I've had in my stash for quite a while. Because the word today is going to be on that grey paper, I didn't like how it just blended into it. So I will be embossing it with some, let me see, it was some Stampendous chunky black deep impressions embossing enamel. And I love how that lands up looking all nice and black and glossy, and it just jumps off the page, which you'll see later on. This is the part of the layout where I start to adhere everything down using my double-sided tape. So I'm just playing around with embellishments for a little while before I get to that. And I think about using this totally rad flare button, but I don't use it. I do go into my little stash of goodies. Yes, it's just little bits and pieces left over, and I'll end up using that arrow that says love on it and a bit of Hesham, I don't know what that is, and that little tag that was in my little box of goodies there, it says Daddy's Boy #1, and I really like that on top of his daddy there, so I was really happy how that all came together. I'm just going to be using some foam to mount my number 5, and then some glue just to glue it into the center there where it all belongs. And the little banner that says "That's my boy," I'm also going to mount that with some foam as well. When I first started doing this layout, I actually thought it was going to be really, really hard to do a layout for these photos because of all the different colors. The blue my mum's wearing, all the brown in the background, my little girl's wearing red, my son's wearing brown. It was just a mishmash of everything, but I'm glad I didn't change it to black and white because I think color does capture a moment, and I'm really happy with how it all turned out in the end. So I'm glad I persevered with these hard photos, and I got exactly where I wanted. Well, not exactly where I wanted because the layout took a complete different turn, but that doesn't matter. And that little banner there just above my mum, it says smile, and you can't really see on the video, but my son's got this really cheesy smile there. And with that burlap or canvas or whatever that material-y thing is, I'm just gluing it down with some heavy gel medium from Liquitex, and as well with that little arrow that says love on it. And that's been in my stash looking for a home for so long, but I'm glad I finally found a home for it. So now mounting it onto that amazing paper that says that's all about boys, and just gluing everything down. So I'm just not masking off, but just penciling where the layout goes, and I'm just using some rub-ons from Fantasia. I don't really like how that works out in the end. So I go in and I'm going to do some mixed media. So I'm just protecting my page with some clear gesso and just putting that where all the mixed media is going to go. I am so sorry, but I did the rest of this layer and didn't realize that the camera was not switched on. Anyway, you didn't miss much. All I did was the packaging technique with, and I used the Tim Holtz Distress Spray Stain, and the color was Vintage Photo. And then I went in with the Distress ink, and the color was Faded Jeans, and just doing the packaging technique, which I'm sure you've all seen done quite a few times. And if you're new to scrapbooking and you don't know about the packaging technique, if you Google it or look it up in YouTube, there's tons of videos on it. So I am just so sorry I didn't film that. But then I forgot. I also used some blue gelatos to give, and I smudged that in as well. I almost forgot about that. And then around the edges, just to give it a bit of highlight, I went in with a navy blue oil pastel. So yes, that was it. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for watching and supporting me. And yes, till the next layout, whenever that may be. I hope you're all well and looking after yourself.